From the heart of Lovecraft country, my name is Shanth Enjeti, and you're watching Shanth Enjeti Art. In April of 1985, Graham Nolan's work appeared in DC Comics Talent Showcase number 16. If the purpose of the Talent Showcase was to find talent who would leave an indelible mark on the company, they bet on the right horse with Graham Nolan. Co-creating the character of Bane, the most significant Batman villain in the last 50 years, and leaving his mark illustrating story arcs that have entertained comic book fans around the world. Graham has never stopped pushing himself. In 2018, this lifelong monster kid launched Compass Comics to create first-class adventure tales with a 50s monster movie verve. If the concession stand at Joe Bob Briggs's The Last Drive-In sold comic books, they'd no doubt be by artist and writer Graham Nolan. His latest book is part 3 in his Monster Island series titled Escape from Monster Island. Graham is here to talk about the book today as well as all things Compass Comics. So don't touch that dial, fix your compass in the direction of adventure as the He-Man Comic Makers Club welcomes Graham Nolan right now.
The meeting is now in order. Now what do you say if we form a new club?
Clubhouse is open.
The rules of this club must be obeyed.
Hey everybody, welcome to the He-Man Comics Makers Club. Shout out to my man Alfalfa, you will be missed. And we've got a special treat for you guys today, coming to you from the heart of Lovecraft country in the birthplace of American religious liberty. My name is Shanth Enjeti, this is Shanth Enjeti Art, and I am so excited to welcome to the show Graham Nolan. What's up? How you doing?
How you doing, Sean? Good to see you.
Really good, man. Really good, and thrilled you are here. So, yeah, man, we've been talking about this for a little bit. We've been talking all things monsters. When I was on vacation in Florida, I sent you some Universal Monster photos, and you sent me over Christmas some photos of the new NECA figures. I was like, yep. Life is good. Life is good.
Yes, it is.
So, how have you been, man?
I'm getting through the winter.
Exactly. I know. You've been posting some pretty terrifying pictures. Well,
It's Chinook country up here.
It is Chinook country, right? What's a Florida boy doing up in New York?
I know. I fell in love.
I know. That's how it works. That's absolutely how it works. So yeah, I was I was so annoyed after I finished editing that intro because one of my favorite characters is the Phantom. And I had planned on talking about your work on the Phantom, even though I know it was logistically a bit frustrating in terms of the demands of the strips. But then I started thinking, is there some kind of weird nexus in your life that involves Tom Tyler in terms of, the Mummy's tomb, or the Mummy's tomb, and then you've got the Phantom.
The Mummy's hand.
Mummy's hand, where he's got those great, I like the Mummy's Ghost was one of my personal guilty pleasures, with the gray streak, the silver streak in her hair. But yeah, where he has those great black contact lenses and everything like that. And I said, maybe Tom Tyler's the nexus for Graham.
Yeah. The girl that was in the Mummy's Ghost was a smoke show. I mean, for that era, I can't remember her name right now. It's an odd name. But the guy who played Batman was in it too.
Oh, yes, the old serials, right? The black and white serials.
Yeah.
He was in it. Yep. That movie was just one of those flicks that I don't know why. It had the sidekick dog and everything, and it was so playful. And it was you're right. You have mentioned a few times that what you liked about The Mummy's Hand was the fact that it had that Indiana Jones quality to it, the adventure story. But to me, man, Tom Tyler was the scariest mummy with the black lenses over his eyes and everything. That was terrifying stuff. But yeah, so
actually, though, they animated that. Those they didn't have contacts back then, so that was animated. They went in each frame and blocked that out.
Oh my God. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That might be why it was so creepy. Look
Yeah.
at this. Everybody's saying hello. Good to see you guys. Cranberry Landers is here. Spaceman is here. Good to see you guys. People complain about Ethan's chat being all mods. Well, let me tell you, I can beat Ethan in that one tiny arena, which is having a higher percentage of mods. Mark's Music Obsession. It's great to see you. D-Wag. Good to see you, my friend. Cranberry Landers. I think I've got most of you folks. Eric Huffles. Good to see you. Leg Kick 1 in the house. Good to see you. Leg Kick 1. And guys, if you have not, and Lord Hinson, Comic Skater, and channel member, it's great to see you, all of you guys here. Let me say this. This book, it's a really strange thing. I was looking at this book again today, and I've been reading it a few times. And you'd mentioned before, and guys, just so you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Monster Island, folks. Monster Island, which part 3 of the trilogy is available right now. The link is in the chat. Please go and back this book. But I saw you say on a stream that you wanted to do a romance comic at some point, and I'm like, I'm seeing a little bit. This is a little bit of that creeping in this. I loved it. It was very like 1950s and sweet. I loved it, man.
Yeah, I'd like to put romance in all my books. But when I say I want to do a romance comic, I mean like a real relationship comic. That people, those old romance comics, man, they're horrible. Some of the great art in them, but the stories are just terrible. They're written for girls, but I think it'd be kind of cool to do one like, like everybody's experienced on their first dates or hooking up with somebody, at a nightclub or something, and how that relationship would evolve, in a real way, and that means showing, sex and stuff like that. I think that would be kind of cool to do. I don't have one planned. I just want everybody to know. I just thought, I'm just thinking out loud that would be kind of cool to do.
Yeah. I mean, we can do anything, and you certainly show that when I was looking at Monster Island. I mean, I think you could probably tell from the little trailer, short trailer cut I did, that I have a particular love, and the thumbnail for this stream for that matter, with a certain blue giant that's in book 2 and gets in a really great fight. I love that character design. Yes. And I love that character design. I also love the character of Rooster. But for people who are just coming in, one of the things that I find I need to do more of when I'm talking about books is to actually talk about the books themselves. And the thing that gets me about this is, and correct me if I pitch incorrectly here, so I may be wrong, but about some details, but the coolest part of this to me, guys, is Monster Island is essentially this contained island sphere, would we say, that phases through different parts of one universe, many universes, space and time, and it's basically housing all of these incredible monsters from your dreams, like everything from Toho to Ray Harryhausen to Jack Kirby are all contained in this sphere. And sort of the I don't want to say politics, but what's going on inside the running of this place sets the stage for the drama when you've got these two, we've got a pilot, and then we've got I can't believe I'm blanking on what the term is. The radar.
The Rio.
Yes, thank you. The Rio, who is the beautiful Kelly, who goes by Mac, and she's with Duke, and they're flying into, they're flying along in their F-14. Was it a Tomcat? And they basically end up in this unbelievable circumstance where they've gotten through this protective force field at the one moment when this is phased into their particular space, and they are the first to discover it, and everything starts from there. Would that be a decent pitch?
Yeah, the one thing is that the island is run by these creatures called the Gooch, and they're like universal capitalists. So they're not just going; they go around and they're paid to take monsters off people's hands. So you got a monster problem, they come, they take it off, and you pay them. You don't pay them, they drop the monster back off. So they're definitely in it for the profit. It's not being done for altruistic reasons. So money is involved in the second book. We find it, that some hard times have hit the planet and some cutbacks have been made, and we have
I love that.
so some people have some other alien, some other faction has ended up in the island that are basically space hippies, and they're like PETA people. they
Yeah,
they want
that
all
was.
the beautiful little monsters saved, and they
Oh
find out
man,
that's
see,
not a good
it's
idea.
tough to know what to not spoil. They want the monsters saved for a little bit. They may have a change of heart if you read this if you read the book. But yeah, that's what's so crazy to me about it is because they actually end up befriending one of the characters in Volume One, who is a part of this group, and you do have an element of yes, they're capitalists. Yes, they have this particular system, but you see two instances wherein the system gets taken over by people. And I don't want to make this sound like it's West Wing, guys. It's not. That's not. This is fun adventure storytelling.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
This
not
is
that
just a
kind of.
little back story into it, but this is
Yeah,
really about high adventure,
yeah. It's
you know.
about high adventure, and it's done in a way to where it's we have a clear objective and we have to solve this problem. We have to save the day, and then you get to basically create these vistas
hmm
filled with monsters. So what are the monsters when you are thinking about this book? What are the ones that were the flavor in your head, the movies and the.
It was the Jack Kirby style monsters from the Atlas days, from the pre Marvel, pre Fantastic Four days. The giant monsters that they were churning out every single month, and Tales to Astonish and Tales of Suspense, and all Amazing Fantasy. Even Ditko monsters too.
Oh,
They
Ditko.
always and those guys were influenced by the giant monsters of the movies of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and they were always just fun. The thing that always cracked me up, even as a kid, is like in those Marvel monster comics, all the giant monsters had like underwear on. It's like
Yes, had to
even
be done.
Fing Fang Foom
Yeah.
had some underwear, and I even addressed that in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I point that out, and it's kind of funny. And
Let me.
speaking of problem solving,
Yeah.
one of the problems I had when I first did Monster Island in 1998, the U.S. Navy's interceptor was the F-14 Tomcat. When I finally got around to doing um, Return to Monster Island, that was 2019, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Navy had retired the Tomcat and was using the F-18,
Yeah.
and the F-18 is a single seat, and the Tomcat was a two-seat. You had your pilot and your RIO, your radar intercept officer. And now I had to figure out a way to get my two characters onto the island in part two and have them in the same plane. So,
Mm-hmm.
but they couldn't be on F-18s. So I did some research and I found that there are modified F-18s that they use as radar scramblers, and they're called growlers. And so I had them go on a different ship. It wasn't the Ronald Reagan. They're on the big stick, the Theodore Roosevelt, and they got sent into the growlers, so that way I could get them into the into the two-seater, so that when they crashed onto the island, I could have them together.
See, if it had been me, it would have just been a Shanth plane, and people would have gone, "That's not real." But no, Graham actually goes in. He's gonna make it work somehow. Yeah, I mean, it's that's sort of one of the things about this book that's really great, and I'm excited to see because there's two aspects of monsters that you can play with. There's the place you live in, I think, where your heart sort of seems to live in all of this stuff, which is that great period of celebrating the monsters in the 50s. And then there's
hmm
that sort of darker German expressionist and maybe into the 30s monsters. But to me, the third group that I hope we both despise equally is the postmodern monster as other and my own personal struggles as the writer. You actually love monsters. You you don't want to turn them into your neuroses, and that is such a
No.
great thing. Your monsters are fun, and it's so adventurous when I'm looking at this story.
hmm
Why did you end up in? Just out of curiosity, why was it that time period of monsters you fell in love with? Because that's one of the things I love about your stuff.
Well, in this case, it was because of the style of story I wanted to tell. I wanted to tell an all ages story because I couldn't. I couldn't do a Nosferatu type creature, or or something bloody and terrible and all that kind of stuff. I wanted it to be an all ages comic, because I wrote the first Monster Island for my daughters, because I didn't like the way comics were going. They were becoming too violent and overly sexualized, and I wanted to get back into telling fun adventure tales that everybody could read the same way almost everybody in America read the adventure comic strips in the newspapers, the Terry and the Pirates, the Buzz Sawyers, those type of strips, Flash Gordon. Theodore Roosevelt used to read, I think it was Terry and Pirates, on his during the Depression, on his fireside chats over the radio to people. So these were things that adults could read and kids could read, and that's what I was going for. So that's why I settled on that type of monster, and henceforth the designs came about from that same reason.
I'm not just saying that because I'm seeing both of our faces on screen right now, Graham, but I also felt a little bit of a Johnny Quest feeling when I was reading this. In a weird, I don't know if that sounds completely out there, but it was like Johnny Quest meets G.I. Joe for me at certain points, and that may sound nuts. But then maybe that's...
Well, you're not the first one to say that, though. Yeah, other people have mentioned that to me, and I'll be honest, that was not an inspiration in my mind for it. But as it turns out, maybe that's what the guys who did Johnny Quest were thinking of too. That kind of high adventure tales and that kind of stuff. So, I think we were traveling on similar paths, even though I wasn't trying to make it that way.
Well, I think there's certainly more of a love story and a romance between your two leads, and I think the monster element of it, I mean, I don't think there's anything like this. Like, when I'm trying to think about, it's got both a Japanese giant monster and an American giant monster vibe to it. It's got a Kirby element to it. It's got a, again, like I was saying, G.I. Joe comics quality to it. Particularly, that was a weird one to me, when you see a character named Kirby on an aircraft carrier and you're just going, all right, I'm in on this. That was a great part of it.
Well, the other that we haven't even talked about, the other inspiration for it was the work of Roy Crane, who is my all-time favorite cartoonist. Known as the father of the adventure strip. He created Wash Tubbs and Captain Easy, and then went on to do Buzz Sawyer. And the reason I did the first book in duo shade in black and white was because that's how Buzz Sawyer was done, for the newspaper. So I wanted to give it that look. And I've got my two aviator heroes, Buzz Sawyer again. So in that scene you're referring to, where there's a Kirby is on the aircraft carrier, the captain is Captain Crane, and that's Roy Crane.
Yeah, I mean, because I think that you referenced that right in the back of, is it book 1 or 2? I'm trying to think of where you have the short story. It was book 2, was it? Yeah, Return to Monster Island. You have a section where you talk about it. And also, I should point out, Graham, I want to share your campaign, but what you can do is, if I put us here, I've got a window set up, so all you have to do is put up a screen and then share it as another camera, and then I can put your campaign right up there in that window, and anything else you want to share for that matter. But, but I remember... Let me see if I can... Was it in this one? Yeah, the short story, I believe it was, in the back of this, was it? Oh no, it's Leah, Stanley, and Jack. That was the Jack and Stan one. But yeah, I was listening to you talk about that, I think on another stream, and I was thinking, wow, that's pretty amazing.
Oh, you're about Restar?
Yep. Well, hold on a second. Let me see. Let me see if I can call this up here. I just had a weird audio thing with the mic. Let me see what happened here. All right, so let's call this up. And Graham Nolan's screen. There we go. And then I have to get rid of this. 1 second. Let me get rid of this overlay. Forgot to get rid of that. And where are we? There it is. Get rid of that. There we go. Monster Island, and we're almost to 75K. That's outstanding.
Yeah, everybody wins if I ever get a home screen. What I did with Ask and a little bit of every game of mad thing or phone.
I I'm getting some roboting from you with your audio now, right now, sharing the screen. I'm just wondering if there's a way to... Let me see here. Let me just double check and see what's going on. Let me see if let me try and see if I can share. Let me see here. Sound effects. That's mute that. Mute movie. Mute system. All right, you go ahead and talk, and I just want to see if it happens again. Let's try it.
Sure.
No. Shoot. A second. Let me just double check this. Solo. It's almost like I'm getting it coming in for 2. Let me just double check this here. Hold on. I'm gonna switch this out, and let me just see if that helps. Let me boot this. Let me see. If I boot that, talk now.
Okay.
No, now you're good.
How about
so
now?
I'll do it on my end. Let me see if I can make this happen. So go ahead. You were saying, Graham.
I'm getting lambasted here. It's not my audio space, man.
Yeah, I know. It's my. It's all my responsibility.
Sometimes, like, it happens on StreamYard too. When you put something, when you share a screen, all of a sudden, sometimes you'll get echoes. Yeah, and it's not coming from somebody's audio; it's from the shared screen.
That's weird. I'm gonna see if I can call this up. So let me do this here. Let's go with what do I have here? I've got guest screen. I'm gonna turn that one off, and then let me see if I can do screen share and open this one up. There we go. There's Monster Island. All right, guys. So talk away.
All right,
let's see if we
my
got
audio
this.
now.
That's perfect, Graham. Look at this.
Okay.
The monsters are smiling on us. So yeah, guys, this is the book, and this is the third in the trilogy, which is outstanding. So what's your favorite? What can you tell us about the third book, out of curiosity, for those of us who've read the first and second book?
The third book is actually quite different from the first two, because Monster Island's no longer on Earth. At the end of the second episode, the island has phased out to another part of the universe. And we find out that the Anacrons, or the Anarchons, have sabotaged the drive system. And they've got one more jump, and AWOL sends it to another part of the universe where there's they're looking for this element which they use to power. Same way Star Trek has their dilithium crystals, they have this thing called Sigadium. And it's very rare. It's very prevalent on their planet, but it's rare elsewhere. But there's this planetoid, this mining planetoid that has it. And they go to it. And the planetoid's called Throg. And there's these miners that live there called the Trawl. And so they go there and they talk to them and say, hey, we need to get the Sigadium. They said, oh, yeah, sure, yeah, come on down. We'll give it to you. Well, turns out the Trawl are itinerant gamblers. And people, and there's like a graveyard of ships that are on this thing. When they first spot it, they think, oh, people are crashing into this thing. Well, no, people are coming there to get various elements that they need, and then they never leave. They're put into death matches in a coliseum sort of thing, and then the Trawl bet on who's going to live, who's going to die, that kind of thing. And so that's where our heroes end up. Mac and Duke and Rooster go down to get the material, and they get captured by these guys, and they're stuck inside the planetoid, and the folks on Monster Island can't even reach them. So,
oh my God!
Again, more fun, more adventure. We got new aliens, new characters. There'll be plenty of monsters that we'll see in here too. Really cool stuff I get to draw, because this thing is like a volcanic planetoid, so there's rivers of lava flowing through it, and there's a surprise ending too, which is kind of cool. I think if you've read,
I've come to
some
expect
of my
a surprise ending from you now when I'm reading these things. Like, I got to the end, and it's let me just pause for a moment here. Grifter has lost his mind. Okay, Grifter just gifted 50 Shanth Enjeti art memberships, and
oh, nice.
I am in shock. Gosh, what did the guy in Short Circuit say? I am standing here beside myself. I've got to play a cheerleader for you, my friend. This is for you, a special cheerleader, because of you. the dog gets a bone. Here you go.
Charge!
My goodness, I tell you, my cup runneth over. Grifter, thank you so much, man. That is going to be insane when it comes time to make the titles for the end credits of this show. So yeah, you were saying that with these characters, they end up in peril, but it seems like almost with every single issue, you're kind of tackling and poking fun at a particular type of neurotic problem that can come up in modern day society, but where there's this juxtaposition between I think would we say their friend AWOL, who's a part of this alien race that controls Monster Island, this capitalist society, and his teammates. But then you've got people who are, like Rooster, who is one of my favorite characters. If there's a character I think about drawing, it's Rooster, because they've got this ability to understand the aliens. That's a part of the story. You can learn about how that works, and the thing that gets me about it is he's just this total, almost like the Thing. Hard ass, like, what's up, girl? He's got that great quality to him. Who was the basis for that? Did you have a character that was the inspiration?
It's Jackie Gleason.
Jackie
from The Honeymooners.
I see it now. Oh my God, that's terrifying and wonderful.
There's even a line in the first book where I think he says it's a mere bag of shells. So I stole that right from Jackie Gleason.
Was that that from The Honeymooners, or was that from?
Honeymooners.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Oh my God! Now I can't unsee it.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Gleason, man, that's outstanding. I love that. Oh my God. Yeah. So it's hard to describe this book in terms of what are the things you like. What I would pitch it to somebody as, but my favorite part of it is that it is all ages. I would tell anybody, Julie, it's great to see you, and hello, new channel members. Thank you, Grifter, once again. That was incredible of you, my friend. Incredible and appreciated. The thing that gets me about this is it is an all-ages book. And I think about what all ages can mean when it's not dumbed down. And it's in this book. Like, even in the scene that... I'm not saying it's my favorite scene, Graham. I'm not saying it's my favorite scene. But where there's a scene, skinny dipping, swimming. Oh, she was cleaning. The point is, she was dirty and then she was clean afterwards. But where she goes for a swim, almost like Julie Adams, sans breathtaking white bathing suit, and he tries to catch a glimpse of her. And then she warns him, would we say, with a fastball in the form of a rock. But then she kind of is like, hey, I thought he'd try to peek again. That is one of those charming Graham Nolan interplay of the sexes moments in this comic that makes me think that's what all ages comics can be. All age comics can teach people about that dynamic between men and women we've lost. And so this is one of those books I would heartily recommend if you've got younger people and you've already got a copy for yourself to back this and give this as a gift. It would make for great reading. There's a lot of really interesting stuff talked about in terms of fantasy science, but then also when you're going over the military terms and everything like that with the ships. It's a great book for anybody of any age.
Much appreciated.
So you can tell I read it now. Graham's like,
I do. I mean, you can't fake that much. You can't fake that much.
You can't. I mean, I didn't make it past, the swimming scene, I'll be honest with you. So I don't know what happens afterwards. I blacked out, on my kitchen floor next to a bottle of NyQuil. We don't know what happened, but there's a funny scene in the new book that's like that too, and I've shown it on other streams where when they know they're going to go down to this planetoid, they need to get a different kind of flight suit, a pressurized suit because they're going to actually be in space. And so Rooster says, he'll work on the designs, and Duke gets too excited to help him. And he says, I want to make sure that, human anatomy is taken into consideration. So the two of them go off while Mac studies the control systems on the ship that she has to fly. And so when they reveal their outfits, Duke gets out and he goes, oh, yeah, this is great. This is great. And Rooster has his outfit. It's a little different color, but it's got all this glowing piping. And then he says, come on out, Mac.
and she doesn't want to come out, and she goes, "I'm gonna kill you." And she walks out. She's got this super low cut thing all the way down to here with high boots. It's
Listen,
totally
I'm not saying
misogynistic.
Listen. Like, I could be wrong, right? But this is my final. Robble13, by the way, newly minted channel member. Thank you again, Grifter. Wanted to know which package orders the Trump cover. That's epic.
The Trump cover is not in a package. That has to be ordered separately.
Okay, so is it an add-on? Or let me see. If I can...
Well, no. Well, it can't. If it's not on there, it's because it was up for a limited time. But it's going up on Inauguration Day.
Excellent. So it'll be available.
It's coming back on Inauguration Day, so you'll have a chance to get it then. It's limited to, I believe, it's 500 copies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's a very limited amount. So when it goes up on next Monday, you want to make sure you grab onto that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean there's a playful aspect to this, and there's something that I think have lost in our storytelling, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about this, is that you take time to kind of humanize all of your characters. I loved the couple from the first book, who were the runaway queen who fell in love with her bodyguard, who was this sort of big giant thing, for lack of a better way of putting it. He was this beast. And you have all of these really charming moments where you kind of get to understand what these characters, but they're kind of, Duke and Mac are kind of, and I just want to I'm going to call her Kelly for these purposes, just in case people don't know what kind of party this is. But when they're with each other, you see their relationship evolve in this really beautiful way, this push and pull, almost a moonlighting kind of dynamic, which I think is fantastic. Oh, let's see. Oh, now you're roboting because I'm trying to share this. Here, let's do this. I'm going to kick that, and why don't you send it to me on Twitter, and then I'm going to pull it up.
Okay.
So we'll get that. I'll do it that way, and then I can share it with them. And actually, you know what though, Graham? Hold on a second. Let's go back to this one right here, and then you can tell people, just vamp for me for a second. I'm going to go back to this screen right here because you sent me that image when I did that trailer, so I have it. Let me see. I think I do anyway.
Oh.
Let me see if I can find it.
Well, I just sent it to you via Twitter, so.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, that'll save time there. Let me see here. But yeah, I mean, I'm loving this stuff. So what was the first monster movie you remember seeing?
Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman.
Oh, that's a hell of a way to start. That's outstanding.
Yeah, I was 6 or 8 years old, probably 8. And it was shown on TV, and I really wanted to see it. And my mom let me, but she was doing folding laundry in the bedroom, and I got to lay in her bed and watch it on TV. But she wanted to make sure she was there because it was in case I got really scared. She was a teacher, so and I did get, every time the Wolfman came on, I got scared. When he turned and he got those beady eyes that would go back and forth, and the teeth and everything, scared the piss out of me. Not a great movie when I look back at it now. There's a lot of reasons for that, but it has one of the best openings of any Universal monster film. Yes. The opening in the graveyard is just amazing. So that was what set me on my Monster Kid path, and my love of Frankenstein because of that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I love all those movies. I can't. It's weird. Was it House of Dracula, or no? It was House of Frankenstein. Sorry, which was oh gosh, it was what was the plotline of that again? It was like Boris was in the prison cell and he's the scientist, Karloff, and then Daniel, his servant. I look at those matte paintings on what are like the 3rd or 4th sequel of these movies, and I'm like, these are works of art. Like when they go in and there's the ice caverns, I think, where everything is frozen underneath the castle. I mean, those movies just led into one another, and I wish they would go back to doing something like that desperately.
Yeah, the rally pictures, they call those.
Oh, so good. You do image overlay here and see if this works. And then I'm gonna
House of Dracula is actually better than House of Frankenstein.
I think
so.
Let me shrink this down here. Look at that.
Oh yeah. So Yeah,
Yeah,
so he's trying to get her to come out, and then he's like, "Yeah,
you know,
you're rocking that outfit," and she clobbers him.
she's not as a big fan of it as he is. But yes, guys, um, look, I'm not saying this is why I like the book. You know, don't judge me. But it's a fantastic read for that reason. Is that what would a guy do in a world where there are no hall monitors, no totalitarian hall monitors, and he had to design a costume for his best gal, and it's kind of funny too because she's a little bit more, I think, complicated, you know, than you think of typically when you see characters like this written, because she's flirty, she's romantic, so she's not got that sort of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you know, that kind of dead inside, I don't have any woman left in me, you know?
Right.
It's
Yeah. Kind of a resting bitch face.
yes, or like soul,
Yes.
you know, resting bitch soul or something. It's
Yeah.
depressing to be around, and I think that's what's so great about it. Goosebumps did the same to those who grew up in the '80s. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think you're the same age as my brother Nick, and he's worked in science fiction, fantasy illustration, and we've been friends for God knows how long, and an incredible painter and artist. And we were talking about just what it was like being. We're both on either end of. I think he's 64, and so we were talking about being on either end of the whole Gen X thing, and we were talking about and I was telling him, I go, we kind of had this really cool phase of Monster because we got the tail end of early makeup effects, and then we got the start, right? Like you would have been starting, you said in, was it 85 is when you were coming into the
Starting
industry?
what?
Comics.
Oh,
when you were
yeah,
in
yeah.
comics. And that's
Yeah.
a high watermark for the rebirth. Like that's when it starts to really crest, is in 85 and 86 for special effects. So that's a hell of a time for Monster Kids.
Yeah, I'm a boomer because I was born in '62, so
Oh,
I was
62,
on the
okay.
tail end of that yeah of that big monster rebirth that started in the late '50s when they sold off
Oh, yeah.
to television these monster packages, and that's what started, you know, that whole thing with Famous Monsters of Filmland and the Aurora model kits, and Bobby Pickett, you know, doing his Monster Mash, and every of the monsters and all that stuff came about as part of that sale to the boomer kids that are now watching this stuff on TV. They were too young to know it, so they started watching it on TV and grew up with it. And you know, I was at the tail end of that because that went into like the mid to late '70s before that completely died out. And I started watching that stuff in the late '60s, early '70s. So I was
So
really happy to catch all that old stuff.
you had those are some glory years, and so you got the best of both worlds though, because then everybody grew up and started making work, including yourself, and started making all this great monster stuff. But it's kind of fallen by the wayside lately, which is, you know, frustrating to see.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, superheroes are what sells comics in the
Yeah.
U.S. Uh, uh, and when I started up Compass Comics again in the 2000s, I had to make a decision. What direction did I want to go in? And I decided pretty quickly I did not want to compete in the superhero market. You know, Marvel and
Hmm.
DC have that locked down. Even in the independent world, there's a lot of superhero stuff. And since I love monsters, I figured I'd go back to a genre that A is bulletproof, and B, a lot of people weren't doing.
Yeah.
So I started off with the Chinook, and then moved into Alien Alamo, and then, you know, blah 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 blah.
Well, and this was
Joe
this was one of these
Frankenstein.
things. 62, me too, says Spaceman. There you go. So for me, the thing about it was I remember this, and I was doing some research on these. There were these books that came out, and I believe it was in the '70s. So it was kind of, you know, late '70s to mid '70s, which were these monster books. And I don't know, did you ever see these? They were in every public library, and every kid's school library for a time. But they were these incredible books, and this is not one of the actual books. I went through and remastered this, but I found all of the photos in higher resolution. And so this was the kind of stuff that you used to be able to get in your library as a kid to learn about all of these monsters. They had one for Dracula, they had one for King Kong, you know, and they would talk about the new Kong movie coming out, but it would mainly cover the history of the original movies. And that's the stuff that I kind of feel like I got just barely the tail end of it when I was coming up and seeing this stuff. But this stuff is incredible to me. Yeah, Planet of the Apes, of course. Love those movies. And, of course, well, you know, Jessica Lange. This is what Graham's bringing back, everybody.
Best thing about that movie.
Best thing about that movie. You can't really, you can't complain about... Well, the best thing, I've told you the story, I think, before, but yeah, there's all the different books you could get. It was an outstanding time. The best thing for me about that movie was that Mrs. Enjeti, who I've been married to now for almost 25 years, so you've got me beat easily, I'm sure. Very few people, though, who have me beat 25 years, but you've got me, man.
40 in November.
Oh my gosh, man. Congratulations. Congratulations. She was, her mother was pregnant with her, and some friends made her cram into the back of the car on the way to see that movie, and she decided to come early because there wasn't enough space back there. So King Kong played a role in my wife's coming into this world. So I can't say enough good things about King Kong. He's always done right by me. Always done right by me. All right. So what's next?
I remember when they were
this stuff. Go ahead. Please.
When that movie was coming out in 1976, the first issue of Starlog magazine came out, and that was had a Star Trek cover, which is why I bought it. But it had an article in there about the movie, and it showed the Berkeley painting that you just scrolled through. I was like, oh wow, this looks really great. And my brother and I were at a restaurant with my dad. We'd just gotten haircuts or something, and we went to grab a bite to eat, and we had the magazine out. We're talking about it. Some old dude sitting over next table over, he just feels like he can come into the conversation, and he goes, it'll never be as good as the original King Kong.
That's right.
And he was right.
Yeah, wasn't it? Well, you know, I still think that whole story of that thing, it's a miracle that movie even got done. When you think about all of the craziness going on with the giant life-sized, you know, that whole thing is a story in and of itself. But it's true, you know, when you start talking about monsters with people, all these barriers drop. And I think it's very similar with comics. And, you know, we've gone through this period, which is why Comicsgate exists, and which is why so many of us were drawn to this space, where we can bring back what it used to be, which is, do you like monsters? Not what do you think monsters represent? Not what do I, my biography, what am I allowed or not allowed to say about monsters? But do you actually like the thing we're talking about? Do you like superheroes? Do you like monsters? Do you like all this stuff? Because, you know, if you remember this stuff before it was cool, you know, it was cooler and it was fun. And it's wild to see that, you know, you're producing this stuff, and could you have imagined the space that we're in right now when you were starting in comics? I mean, to me, it's like Star Trek.
Yeah, no, the technology changes have helped and hurt comics at the same time, but it certainly made it more accessible to people to get into the business and to create and own their own stuff. So that was a positive for it. You know, I imagine if Jack Kirby came up today as a young man, you know, and you know, he unleashed his creative powers and stuff, and owned everything he created. I mean, it would be unbelievable. The internet would shut down, you know?
It would. Yeah, I mean, he's... The amount of stuff that was created during that time and during his lifetime is incredible, but I think, you know, one of the things... I don't remember... How old was he when he did Fantastic Four?
He was in his 40s, 42 maybe,
I think so.
43. Yeah.
Can you imagine the comic book industry understanding that in this day and age? You know, I mean...
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's the ageism that just runs rampant today, that young people can't understand how, you know, if you're a certain age, you can't relate. Well, the thing is that they were telling universal truths in their comics. And so age was irrelevant. I mean, yeah, okay, some of the clunky dialogue, the hipster kind of sounding cool, lingo,
Yeah.
might not have registered with the kids. Um, and that's, that kind of slang and those idioms and stuff, of course, always are changing. Um, but the concepts of the stories are universal. And that's what's great.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny too because and I think you may have even covered this on streams, but there's this thing that is responsible, I think, for a healthy society, which is a respect for the wisdom of the folks who have more experience living life than you do. It sounds like such a simple concept, but there was this very big turning point because I taught college for 18 years, and couldn't do it anymore with all this stuff coming in. Couldn't do it anymore. I mean, there was basically, I had one of those turning points where I had two separate students come to me who were white and were told that one student, who was interestingly enough engaged to a brown guy, said to me that they said, anytime you open your mouth and you speak, you're silencing marginalized voices. And then this other kid, I'll never forget, came to me and said that he was basically bullied his entire time in college because he was, told he was a racist or a sexist, whatever he did. And this is the thing that's so crazy to me about this is that that's the kind of thing that normally a teacher would have the ability to course correct. And at a certain point, whether it's editorial or it's administration, depending on whether you're in comics or you're in education or you're in video games or concept art, it was like having the other parent throw you under the bus with the kid. And they'd go, no, this person has a point there. We should silence this person. All of a sudden, our ability to listen to one another and to respect things changed. And so a critique was about a power imbalance, or wisdom and guidance was about someone, belittling you or being condescending to you. And what it really is someone throwing you a lifeline. I mean, I remember meeting Brian Stelfreeze and him saying to me, are they teaching you any art at art school? Like, that was his opening salvo. Like, he just was sort of like, welcome aboard, kid. And I saw that as a challenge to improve and to get better. And when I didn't want the bar put on the ground just so I could clear it. And when I look at these characters, there's the silliness, there's the craziness, but you never get the sense that these characters are incompetent. And you do feel that connective tissue with storytelling, that comes from, frankly, the monster movies and the adventure stories we watched is in this book and is in what we're doing now. But we're having to reconnect it. It's like it skipped a generation.
Well, I think you raised some really good points there. One of the things I notice when I look at modern comics is nothing happens. People stand around and talk a lot about their feelings and stuff.
Yes.
It's almost like watching cosplay. At the lunchroom, where they sit around and they talk and they're eating or drinking and it's like, or they're scrolling on cell phones and stuff. It's like. Mm-hmm. You read superhero comics because you want to be transported into someplace else, some fantastical world, to be able to do amazing things. Yeah. That's the draw of it. I don't want a superhero comic where they're just like me,
Yes.
And that's the problem, is that these writers, they just want to write themselves, instead of exploring universal concepts and ideas of heroism and sacrifice and stuff like that. They bitch and moan, on their phones, but they're wearing these dopey costumes. I just find that stuff really, really juvenile and stupid, and not interesting. Now, certainly, superhero comics are juvenile, but they don't have to be stupid. They could be a lot of fun, if you buy into the premises of them.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that's crazy. You're going to have those moments when you're parenting that are juvenile, where you're telling your kids a story or the stuffed animal is talking to them, but there's more happening behind the scenes, as opposed to kids sitting at a table eating paste, which is the juvenile I think that they're doing. we're actually in a position sometimes, when you're an educator, one of the most important things, and I know you're talking about coming from a family where there was an educator. Your mom was an educator, I believe, right?
Yeah, my mom was a teacher, yeah.
Yeah, and my wife is a teacher, and I was teaching for a while, and I used to say the most important thing I think every teacher needs to understand is that they're not a student. They have a different role there. They have to, and they shouldn't, they should take that role and have the students help them to understand that, because they're going to feel better in that situation. And I think that that's probably something that comes through with this book that's unique in terms of what you can bring with your skill set, because you've got so many different things at work to produce this book. So many years of experience working and writing and telling stories. I find it shocking. What is it? You've referred to yourself, I think, in the past as a writer who draws. Is that what it was? Who does art?
Yeah. A writer who draws, not an artist that writes.
Okay, well, I'll try to wrap my mind around that, Graham. Some pretty looking stuff, but it's it just was an interesting thing to hear you say that, because I think that you're it's almost like there's that feeling when you're reading this book that you're in capable hands. You have this black and white volume 1, and guys, if you haven't backed it, and if you do back it, please let us know in the chat. Let us know your backer number. I know we're at that beautiful number of 1, 2, 3, 4 I was seeing up on the screen, but we wanna keep moving this number up. And like
75,000 is the first stretch goal for.
And what do we got at 75,000? Let's talk about that.
Well, the way I run my campaigns is I put stretch goals in right up on sale number 1. So
Gotcha.
We're not doing it, every 25,000, 50,000, whatever. So already when you first come on board, you're getting a bookmark, you're getting a vinyl logo sticker, you're getting upgraded paper, you're getting a spot UV on the cover. So there's you're getting a coating, a matte coating on the cover as well. So all that stuff is already in there ahead of time. Then once you hit 75, now other stuff will come in. I think there's a trading card too that's already in there. And if there's not, there will be one. I've got 2 campaigns running, so I can't keep them straight. So at 75,000, I think I'll send out to everybody that's backed a screen wallpaper for your phone, a mobile screen wallpaper. We did that with the other Monster Island, and everybody really liked that. It's easy to do. Everybody can use it. Everybody's got a phone. So that's what we'll start with. And then
Excellent.
We'll go from there. At the next level is 100,000. In the last book, when we hit 100, I think that ended at 120, 115,000. I added an extra story in there, and that's the Kirby cigar story. I think it's 8 or 10 pages. And that's actually based on some real life stuff.
The bonus features in this too, let me see if I can figure this out here. Let me do. Oh, and first of all, let me also say, Pramvat Gulati coming in with a super chat to say, Fire Panel, thank you. Let me send you a cheerleader, if I may. And this is for you. Charge! Yep, and this is Joe Frankenstein right here is the other campaign, which I'm also a huge fan of right there. And so make sure you check that out, because that's still funding as well. So
that one's going to be coming to an end soon, probably by the end of the month. Anthony's finishing up. Anthony's in the chat actually, is finishing up the last batch of pages on that. So I'm hoping to get that to the printers early February or end of this month, because we're going to be fulfilling by March. So that one's coming to an end. I'm working on page 20. I think. Oh, I just finished it actually.
Oh, can we see it?
Here's page 20
come on now.
from Escape from Monster Island.
Look at that, guys.
There we go.
That's beautiful. Wow. Oh, wow. Look at the gang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to scan that in and then clean it up digitally, add some gray tones and some of the piping that goes on their uniforms because it glows in the dark. So that has to be done digitally.
So now, what's your approach in terms of your thinking when you're deciding whether something is color or black and white? because I know there was obviously book 1 was black and white, and then you get this great moment that's almost kind of the Wizard of Oz moment where you step into color when an unfortunate awakening from a dream where you wish she hadn't you hadn't been talking in your sleep. And then it goes into this full color. But what's your thinking when you do have color added to your work? Because you've probably worked with different colorists for over different jobs. But what's your personal philosophy with it?
Well, the first one was black and white because I wanted it to have that duo shade, which no longer exists, by the way. It was
I love duo shade.
a paper that had you applied two chemicals to, and it would create photographical black tones on it. Now you don't need it because we got Photoshop. And then, so when the second one came out, I wanted to people pretty much prefer the color stuff, so I wanted to transition it to color from that. Now, the reason I did the Chenille in black and white, which technically from a printing point of view, it's full color because there's gray tones and there's red in it. Whenever there's blood, there was red. So I had to pay for full color, even though there wasn't tons of color in it. And that was done because I wanted it to look like a black and white horror film. That one's not an all ages book. That one's definitely a rated R horror book.
Just to be clear, not an all ages book. That one.
No. I wrote that as if I was writing a Netflix movie. That was my intent, to do something really interesting like that. Lots of splatter, blood, and beaten up bodies and shit like that. It's really cool.
I love that stuff, and it's the way you do it. And we're just talking about Joe Frankenstein. So let me get Joe Frankenstein up here because there was a cover in particular because I think we've talked about it.
Hey, before you do that, we
Please.
should play the trailer for Escape from Monster Island.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me get that back here. Hold on a second here. Oh my goodness, Graham, this technological monster that we found ourselves in. I never thought I would be a broadcaster when I went into comic sports. So let me go back to Monster Island. There we go. And hopefully, let me make sure hopefully you hear sound for this. Let me just double check and make sure I've got sound interview. Looks like. I just want to make sure I'm not. Well, I'm going to boomer this anyway, so it's going to happen. So here we go, guys. Let me know if anybody hears sound.
No,
dang it. All right, hang on. Hang on a second here. Let me see. Where is it? Use cancellation. This is going to be so annoying because otherwise I have to play my edited version, which I want to make sure if I can share this. So let me see here. This color, Google Chrome, border, activate system audio capture. Let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. Let me know if you can hear it now.
Nope. Now, when you share a tab, there's usually an audio button that you can turn on.
Let me see if I can get Gcam, mic mode, voice isolation. Oh, that is annoying. Let me see here. I know there's someone in here is going to know what I'm doing who uses Ecamm and go, oh, all you got to do is, let me see, settings, stream, video.
Robbie 13, your backer number 1339. Thank you, sir.
Oh, sweet. Excellent.
Very nice.
Good to have you in the chat. Let me see. Screen sharing. Here we go. Include so everything. Screen. Audio. Let's try this. Systems default. Let's try mute sound.
Let's get her to 75K while we're on the air here, guys.
Are you serious? Let's see where we are. Hold on a second here. Let me come back to this while
we're at 75.6 something.
My failed. Wait a second. What? Hold on a second here. My failed attempt to play a trailer with audio clearly is the key to all of this, Graham. Let me see here. Oh my gosh, guys.
Yeah.
We're inching along. Here we go.
$397 away.
Oh my gosh, guys. Thank you so much. And do we have a backer or a new backer here in the chat? Did they alert us?
So Robbie 13 was the last one.
Okay, so there we go. Excellent. Are you in the chat here?
Or Robble.
Robble 13. There we go. Yes, I got number 1339. At least there is a 13 in it, indeed. Let's get you a cheerleader for that, because you deserve a cheerleader. Ah, wrong one. Sorry. Charge! Graham, I'm a special man, and all that implies. Oh my lord. So yeah, so guys, we are inching along.
You have putting together trailers and all that kind of stuff, and you can't even get audio in.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. I will tell you this too. I need my son to come back because he's studying engineering right now. Oh. Boy, if you're watching, yes, yeah. So we had our two kids because we have twins. They're off at college, so we became empty nesters like that. So yeah, it's wild, you know, to sort of take that whole thing in. But he's going into engineering, and every now and again he'll try to explain to us what he's doing, and we'll go, not a clue. Like, where did this child come from? You know, but
what type of engineering?
Well, he's studying, I think, he's at an aeronautical engineering school. So right now he's doing the basics, you know, for it. But he's interested in pretty much everything, like racing, all of it. And of course, we've got some racing folks here as well. You know, so it's, let me see here. Gonzalez Clark, no commie messages, no preachy nonsense. That's right. Very few women, which, hey, might be a selling point for some of you. What's in there? Vampires, evisceration, mummies. Yes, indeed. We have got Anthony Gonzalez Clark selling, of course, Joe Frankenstein 3. But yeah,
Anthony's the artist on that book, and he's doing a killer job.
It's beautiful stuff. Yeah, you're doing your bit for monster kids everywhere. That's for sure. You know, as far as this stuff goes. So what's the stuff that you're collecting now? I know you collect a little bit of NECA when it comes to
I just started getting into the NECA stuff. I ordered the we had talked about they had that new Bride of Frankenstein monster version with the chair and the replaceable hands and all that kind of stuff. I ordered that back in June from NECA directly, and then I ordered a few other things that came with it. Well, the few other things weren't in, and they won't ship unless everything's together. So, you know, they keep saying, "Oh, this it's pushed back." I wanted to have it by October, and by December, I still didn't have it. Meanwhile, you went out to Walmart and bought the damn thing, you know, right off the shelf.
I did.
And I just got so frustrated, and I told them to cancel my order, and they said they would, but this other stuff, which was secondary, actually shipped. So that arrives, and what do they cancel? My Frankenstein order, the one thing that I ordered first. So I went on Amazon and bought it.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. No good deed. But let's see if we can get audio on this now. Tell me if this plays, and then I'm going to just...
Yes!
Oh, here we go.
Full side of it. Now full side. There you go.
Boom. Oh my God, sorry, I have to, didn't mean to pause there, but I wanted to see that, that's all. Sometimes I forget I'm doing the show, it shows.
You've seen
I mean, come on, guys.
Back it today.
Yes, back it today, it's outstanding, and also Graham's Words of Iron are worth a watch too, if you have not seen those, guys. And thank you for continuing to back this book. It is getting closer and closer to 75K, and we appreciate you guys so much. And let me go to Joe. Is it all right if I go to Joe Frankenstein? Take a look at that.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, Graham, you're crushing it with the monster stuff. I think Anthony Gonzalez Clark, who is in the chat, guys, a tip of the cap to you. Beautiful stuff. You're
Yeah,
making magic with these stories, man. Oh
I
my
just put
god.
the lettered pages up. I just finished scripting like the first 30 pages, but we got the first 10 lettered now.
Outstanding. This is outstanding stuff. And I think one of my favorite covers. I think I backed this, but one of my favorite covers, I think, is the one you did where you were telling me you were inspired by Basil Gogos, who's one of my all-time
Oh, yes.
favorite artists. And were you reading Famous Monsters of Filmland?
I didn't have access to Famous Monsters. What I did have was the Monster Times.
That's right. Yeah.
That was a newspaper that came out like bi-weekly or something like that. But limited distribution. It was primarily in the tri-state area of New York. But that was the one that lit me up. The first one I ever bought was a Godzilla issue. And I was like, I found my Bible.
Wow. I mean, all that cool stuff, I feel like I've only heard the legends of it. I mean, there's the Jack Davis Frankenstein poster, which I would see places, and now it's ridiculous in terms of its price. But yeah, stuff like this is the stuff that speaks to me.
That's the cover you're talking about.
I love this one, Graham. I mean, I'm a huge Basil Gogos fan. Whenever I think I've gone too crazy with my colors, I take out Basil Gogos and I just go, not crazy enough. I need to push this a little bit further. So do you have you were talking about I think on a previous stream, the good stuff is there, Anthony. It's great to see you in the chat, and thank you, Eric Huffles, for dropping links. And guys, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please make sure you are. Trying to do some cool stuff. Some of you guys have been gifted channel memberships. Thank you again, Grifter. That was incredibly generous. But you were talking about this world you're creating at Compass Comics, and there's obviously some books are going to be all ages, some books are not going to be all ages. But there's this kind of through line of monsters. What ideas or what things have you not explored yet with monsters that you want to do? Because I mean, I feel like you've really done a lot in the monster space already.
Well, I've done sci-fi. I've done horror. I've done monster adventure, which is what I would classify this. I've done giant monsters with. So I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Maybe I haven't done a lot of. I did some alien stuff, but I've got some ideas for an alien invasion type thing, which will connect with Alien Alamo. Which actually, I'm thinking of introducing a superhero into that one too.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so nothing locked down. It's just stuff that's in the background stewing while I'm busy actually producing the stuff that I owe to the backers.
Yeah, that's a part of it too, isn't it? It's a big part of it is making sure to stream and making sure to get the stuff out there. And it was when you brought up Alien Alamo, the thing that just always stuck out to me is when you're reading the Monster Island books and Duke's nickname comes of course from John Wayne, and you're hearing about all that stuff. I felt like there's something cool about the Western element in Alien Alamo, and I wondered if you were ever thinking about doing like a something that takes place in the distant past, like a Western.
Actually, I have an idea for a Chinook story that takes place. There's a fight on the plains between these Indians and settlers, cowboys and all that kind of stuff, and then this big blizzard comes in, and the Chinook comes with it, and then the Indians and the cowboys have to team up and fight off the Chinook.
I'm sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, because I don't know what we would classify this stuff as, but, sometimes I'll go back and I'll get out acrylics and I'll do a sketch inspired by something like, the Valley of Guanji or something like that. And I feel as though I return to the past, and I return to, it's just stuff I grew up watching when I was a kid, but this, the Ray Harryhausen Sinbad movies. I love the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. There's just something about that flick that I love the Seventh Voyage, but the Golden Voyage with the Cyclops Centaur. When I saw that character It could have been Caroline Munro. I mean, for all I know, but it was it was also the Centaur when it comes out of the shadows and it's lurking like that, and you have these kind of movie moments. To me, those were bigger moments than Citizen Kane was in my formative years. You know, that was the stuff
Sure.
that kind of hit me. And it's nice to be seeing things like this where it's actually being done well, because the audience has gotten more sophisticated. I don't want to
Sure.
be reading, stuff that could have been done. There was some great stuff, by the way, to be clear, with EC and Warren. All of that stuff was great. But we have new technology and we have access to printer capabilities and things that they never had. And I think this stuff is really bringing it to the next generation. It's so cool to see.
Well, the thing to keep in mind too is yeah, I love this old stuff, but that old stuff won't sell if you do it just like that.
Yeah.
But if you do a pastiche of it, or you do a nod to it so that it has that flavor, but you do it in a modern way, I think that's the key to bringing in new readers and stuff. A new reader won't have the context of it being old. They'll just like it for whatever it is. But somebody who knows its source material, will say, "Oh yeah, this reminds me of the Mummy's Hand or whatever," you know.
And I mean, I think it's what's really interesting to me about the chat, guys, and I appreciate all of you guys being here. Thank you so much. Do make sure you hit the like and make sure you're subscribed. And thank you again, Grifter, and thank you, Pranvat Gulati, for the super chat. I find that when I'm in these streams, the chat, we bring up one thing, or we'll be watching an old movie, and somebody in the chat knows every single detail about this movie. It's just you'll say, "Oh gosh, is there a movie with this?" And then you'll get a recommendation. And I think that's what I miss about the comic shop and the comic cons and all of the things like how they used to be, which is it was people who really cared about this stuff and just dove deep into it. So when I get around my artist friends, people are always, we're always recommending each other. "Oh, have you seen this book? Oh, did you know this? Oh, I didn't know they put that out. That's been collected." And that's the stuff that I think we're kind of getting back to is, again, when you have excitement and enthusiasm for what the older guys in the comic book shop know, they're introducing you to new things, and having contempt from them and going in with your ears and eyes covered and only wanting to see what you came there to see, it closes the door to so many things. Because when I was backing, the Monster Island books, the thing I was most surprised by, which I don't know why, because it is Comicsgate, it's not like we don't do this, was the bonus features section. That was the stuff. I mean, it's a beautiful, square bound, glossy comic like you'd usually only get at Walden Books or wherever I was getting things, and I don't think you get this quality back then. When I was, going into Walden Books. But, you're getting this behind the scenes look at all of this stuff in the back of the book, the storyboards, character designs, and all of these turns. I mean, this is what we sort of dreamed about having be possible back during that time. So I'm so grateful to you for the fact that you're doing this stuff and this work. And it's been so great, getting to know you and getting to talk monsters with you. And also, my tech support issues, which we'll get to at some point. We'll solve them at some point, right? We'll solve them at some point. So what else do you want to tell these fine folks here?
Well, it was just announced that Diamond Comic Distributors has filed for Chapter 11, I think, a bankruptcy reorganization. So if you're worried about those kind of comics, it's probably just a reorganization, and that stuff will sort itself out. However, what is here to stay is independent comics, and dealing directly with the creator. When you deal with a comic shop, the comic shop deals with the distributor deals with the publisher, and never the twain shall meet. So there's all this distance between you and the creation. With crowdfunding and independent comics, you are part of the process. You are helping to create these stories so that when you actually get your book, you can say, "Hey, I had a part in this. This couldn't have gotten done without me and my backing." And that's the great thing about it. If there's an issue, my email's right there. It's you can contact me directly. You don't have to contact DC Comics, who will contact me, and then I'll tell them, and they'll tell you. No, it goes right to me.
Yeah.
So if there's a problem, it gets fixed immediately. So that's the beauty of it. It's smaller, it's more insular, but it's more personal, and that's what I'm loving about it. I've been doing comics for 40 years now, and I've worked for the major companies, I've worked for smaller companies, I've worked for newspaper syndication. Um, so every aspect of cartooning I've done at some point in my career, and this is the most fun of those 40 years. I can honestly
Wow.
say, because I create, I own, I publish, I distribute, and I get to interact with my fans, my backers directly, uh, and that's key. That's the best. When I'm at a convention, somebody comes up wearing a Compass Comic shirt, or just to hang out and talk about one of the streams or something, or to hang out for one of my cigar fests that I do
Yeah.
at conventions. It's a ball. We
Yeah.
get to meet and actually meet in person, and break a little bread or drink a little whiskey or something, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun. So to all of you that back us and make it happen, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that, and I urge
Yeah.
you to continue to do that, because this is creating really great comics.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I think that what you've done with Monster Island it almost feels like an animated film. It's got this great quality to it with the characters and with the dialogue. You really get to know people, and it takes its time in certain places, but then it just is amazing. It just turns on a dime, and you get these gigantic monsters, and all of a sudden scale is completely changed. And it's just really amazing book, and I'm glad that you're making it. Thank God.
Did I tell you that was optioned by DreamWorks?
No,
Yeah.
no, you failed to mention that
Yeah,
to me,
well,
Graham.
it's a funny story. Well, I guess it's not a funny story, but
Hmm.
it's a story. And I wish it had ended better. But
Hmm.
uh, I had an agent at CAA, Creative Artists Agency. They
Hmm.
represent Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg and all these other stars, um, who had gotten a copy of Monster Island, the original book, and took it to Steven Spielberg, and he read it in front of her, and then she calls me, and I was out at the movies. I went to see one of the Star Wars prequels. Um, I think it was the second one, and I was out
Hmm.
with a buddy, and we're at a pub afterwards, and the phone rings. It's my wife, and she says, "Hey, somebody called you from Creative Artists Agency by the name of blah blah blah. Um, they want you to call them back immediately." I'm like, okay. So I call her back, and she says, "Yeah, I just presented Monster Island to Steven Spielberg, and he read it,
You forgot. You
and he
failed to
said,
mention that to me, Graham.
and he said, we this is how we should have ended Jurassic Park 3." So he loved the ending of it, and they wanted to option it. So they had their attorney contact me, and it obviously went to a producer's desk, and I said I wanted to have all rights to printing of anything about the movie or anything, all that stuff. And they said, okay. But we were going back and forth and wants and things that had to get cut out and all that. And we agreed. And I said, okay, great. Well, I'm waiting, not hearing back from him. And I finally called him. And the guy tells me that there was a big shift in the
Mm.
company. And this happens in Hollywood all the time. Producers get fired, and anything on their desk goes with them, because no new producer wants to come in and have to give credit to the other guy for making something successful. So Monster Island went with that guy, whoever he was, right out the window.
Oh,
And Julie and I were driving around spending that money.
oh God. Yeah, I
Not
so
not really. I mean, mentally we were
no,
spending
I
it. There's that
well,
beach
I
house we
don't know.
want.
There's only so many cigars you can buy to spend all that money. Well, I'll since you shared that story, I'll share a story that I don't think I've ever shared on stream, but it's one of these things that just happens. So I'm a newlywed, And I'm doing freelance work. I think I'd already done some Harry Potter trading cards for Wizards of the Coast, things like that, right? And I've got some friends out on the West Coast, and you know how it is when you get offers or things come in front of you, you don't go and tell everybody in case they fall through, because you're like, a lot of stuff goes on. And so we're newlyweds, and she's just started her job, and there's some folks I knew over at Imaginary Forces go, we were looking at your comic book style, and I was telling them about you, and we want you to do some illustrations for the opening title sequence for M. Night Shyamalan's second film, Unbreakable. And I'm like, wow. I've done some jobs at this point, but this was huge. But I go, no way. Like, this isn't going to happen. And they're like, what do you need? And what do you, like, we want to get you moving. We need you out here. We need you to come and do this. And I'm not telling anybody, but, Mrs. Enjeti and I were just kind of like, okay, we're not going to tell anybody. Finally, they're like, we're sending you a plane ticket tomorrow, the contract, the plane ticket, and you need to be there. And so I have to tell everybody. I'm like, going, all right, so this thing is happening. And that next morning, they got fired off of the credits for the job. And I had to go and call everybody within 24 hours. And I was like, so yeah. And
wait a minute. You already had the plane ticket. You could have just gone on the plane, gone out to Hollywood and hung out.
It hurt. But, my new wife was here, so, Hollywood didn't have much appeal. But it was, God, this would have been 25 or so years ago, whenever that movie came out.
Yeah.
But you get into these rooms where you just think, oh my God. Oh, and I like this one. I got to point this out. Antoine Dennison, it's great to see the professor in the house. Mighty Geek Studios was asked what's the story behind Monster Island, but I wanted to also read this one here because I love it. 40 years of art. Wow. Thank you for all the years of sharing your dream world with us. And
well, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you for supporting me.
And now getting a whiskey to toast you. There you have it. You can't get much better than that, clearly.
Oh, there we go.
People are inspired.
I like the cut of your jib, sir.
Exactly right. Yep. You see, there's mutual respect here. Yeah, those stories happen, but that's all just becomes a part of it. I find that when I talk to people, if you don't have at least one or two of those stories, you're kind of out of the conversation. You're sort of dealt out of the conversation. You have to have those. You have to have those moments, and I think I don't know, what is it, that quote, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you were trying for. I think about that more and more, that's so key to writing, and that's so key to illustrating is, I remember when I would teach students how to paint, and I would teach them color theory. They'd go, wow, you're the only person who's really good at teaching color here. Like, I got color. Why is that? And I'd go, well, you see all these other teachers here? They're naturals. I wasn't a natural. So if I could teach me color, I can teach you color. That's not a problem. And that really is a way I think it works for a lot of us is that, yeah, we have, thank God, natural talent, natural whatever, God-given gifts we have. Mm-hmm. But you still have to put the time in and the work in. And we didn't know about streaming. We didn't know we'd have to broadcast or camera setups or audio setups and overlays and guests and all that stuff. And then on top of all of that, things like lettering, coloring, designing, layout, InDesign, Photoshop, we have these conversations where sometimes what I like most about Comicsgate is outside of these incredible people here and outside of the work and everything that it stands for, what I really appreciate in Comicsgate is the fellowship I have with other creators where somebody can go, have you tried this printer? Oh, right. who you should look at? Oh, have you seen this new artist? Or you've seen this person? And it makes things so much better when you have people you can talk to. And then we share that stuff out there for the creators who might be coming up and coming into this space.
And you can tap unique. Their skills too, to do stuff that maybe you can't do. I'm not very good with websites, but I've got Eric Weathers now helping me design a new website, upgrade it a little bit more, and it's great. You just create these contacts. Dan Frega, the other day we were talking, I turned him on to Procreate. and he loves the program now. And then he went in and created these brushes to emulate a brush for like Wally Wood or Mike Royer or any of the other these many artists. And I said, "Oh, that's really cool. Could you send me those?" He goes, "Oh yeah, sure." So he sends me the whole file of all his custom made brushes.
Wow.
You just share. You
Yep.
share your knowledge, share what you got with each other, and root for each other. I don't feel like we're competing with each other. Which is great.
Yeah. And when we do, sometimes where there's McDonald's eating contests, sometimes people cheat when we do compete. Shane can tell you that sad story, between him and John's McDonald's eating contest. But these things do happen here. But it's all love. These are the things I always try to remember. And at every stage of life is the same thing with kids, right? And grandkids are still in my future. I've still, knock on wood, but it's those things to where I always try to stop and remember I'm in a really great time right now. I try not to ever linger too much on the difficult things and the setbacks. That's all part of the experience, right? But the idea that a kid growing up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, ends up in Rhode Island and then ends up meeting all these people and then ends up at Skywalker Ranch and hanging out with people doing animation and all this crazy stuff, and then leading all of that stuff leading to Comicsgate. I don't know. I think I've told you this story before, but my first professional job I did was for a small publisher called First Light Comics, and First Light Comics, the cover was by Andy Smith.
Oh,
and then for a very short spell, I grew up in Grosse Pointe Woods, Michigan, because of my special brain, on 2228 Hampton Road. Leave those people alone, folks. I don't live there anymore. And Dan Lawless delivered newspapers to my house. He lived
that
in
I
my
did
neighborhood.
hear.
And
that's fun.
I've done so many. There's been so many bizarre crossovers with people in Comicsgate that I just kind of go, okay, this isn't my plan, so I'm just gonna sit back. I'm just gonna sit back and work my tail off, and make this stuff happen. Graham, well, I thank you so much for. And JWK Creates is here. How's it going, everybody? It's going great. We are probably wrapping up. Graham, you probably got to get ready for another show and some. I don't know. I mean, I can stay.
Well, we got the bros on at 7. I got to scan this page and then.
Can you show that again too? That's just.
Yeah, sure.
That's a stunner.
Here we go. That way I can just scroll it up. I'm having fun drawing all these organic backgrounds, rocky things, and then all these alien, like thug type Kirby creatures, God,
they're so good.
That's a lot of fun.
I mean, this is so beautiful, man. I'm loving. Yeah, of course, right? These are my guys now.
Yeah.
Now I can't.
There you go, Mac and
Rooster the same way again. Now all I'm gonna think about whenever I see Rooster is Jackie Gleason, which is so great, man.
Bang the moon, Mac.
To the moon. It's Graham finally decided to do his own thing, says Mighty Geek Studios. Amen. Yeah, I mean, and we're all the richer for it, Let me see here. Shanth, did you go to Rock City or the Chickamauga Civil War? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I went to Rock City. I took Mrs. Enjeti to Rock City. And Ruby Falls and all that stuff. Yep, that's my stomping ground. That's where I got into comics. And you wanted to talk about famous monsters. Man, trying to get anything in Chattanooga for a while was a bit dicey. Not a lot came to us. We had to go to Atlanta for everything. But yeah, it's a great book, guys, and I hope everybody is going to go out and back this book. Let me just see here if I can.
Thank you, Sleeping Psychopathy.
Yes, indeed, guys. So this is our book right here, and this is what we're targeting. We want to hit 75K soon, and then the professionals is going to be at 7:30. You said, or was it 7?
7 o'clock. It's on Andy Smith's channel.
Andy Smith's channel, guys. So Andy Smith's channel. And thank you, Graham, so much for being on. Anytime you want to come on and talk about anything you're doing, just let me know. I'd be happy.
Well, I do appreciate it, John. It's always a pleasure. I have a ball talking with you about comics and monsters, and really enjoyed being on your show. And thank you to everybody in the chat, and for everybody who backed any of these projects is much appreciated.
Thank you so much, guys. And so let me just close by saying that Monster Island as a series is just unbelievable. It's got so many different genres coming together. It's got really great pacing. It's got a romantic story. It's got aspects of temporal and spatial displacement, and then fun Kirby monsters. It's everything in a book that you could want, and if you're a monster kid, you're gonna love it, and make sure you jump on it, guys. So thank you, Graham, and I appreciate it. So I'm gonna play the credits for all the channel members, and I'm dreading having to add all those, but grateful, Grifter, for all of the new channel members that we're gonna be adding in the credits. And Graham, if you stick around for a second, I want to say hey, if that's all right with you.
Yep. Yeah,
all
you
right,
bet.
my friend. Take care, everybody.
Okay.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
We will see you. All right, so guys, from the heart of Lovecraft Country and the birthplace of American religious liberty, my name is Shanth Enjeti. This has been Shanth Enjeti Art. Speak easy, stay gold, keep the faith, and peace be with you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.